Good morning. Welcome to our Mother's Day service for 2022. We begin today's service with ringing of kansho, followed by sutra chanting of Junirai. Then the Dharma School first and second grade will lead reading of the Golden Chain. Then Reverend Mukojima will share his Dharma message, and then we'll close our service. Thank you for joining us today.
The golden chain by the second and third grade class.
I am a link in the Buddhist golden chain of light stretching around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong.
I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds.
Knowing that my actions will result in not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also the happiness and unhappiness of others as well.
May every link in the Buddha's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace.
Please join us in kansho. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 The golden chain.
Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. When a person realizes the mind of non-discrimination, the attainment is the state of regarding each being as one's only child. That is none other than Buddha nature. We will awaken to it on reaching the land of peace. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. Good morning, everyone. Happy Mother's Day. I trust that all the mothers attending our online service will enjoy a joyful and relaxing time with their families today. I hope that this gathering will help make this special day even more meaningful and valuable. This is the first Mother's Day for me since my mom passed away. So I'm now feeling a little strange because even if I want to say Happy Mother's Day to my mom, as I always have done, she is no longer here. As a youngster living in Japan, I celebrated Mother's Day with my dad and brother every year. So we have lots of good family memories since my childhood. But because last year my mom had become terribly weak, she was taken to the hospital by ambulance on Mother's Day. And 11 days after that, she passed away in the hospital. So now, for me, it is a bittersweet on Mother's Day because of those painful memories. There is a Japanese saying, by the time you wish to be a good son, your parents are long gone. Although I've heard this phrase many times, now I fully understand what it means. I feel nothing but regret that as her son, I hadn't been able to do much for my mom. When I look back over my life, I realize I caused my mom more anxiety and exhaustion than I did giving her happiness and joy. Have you ever heard of the 5 gravest offenses? These are terrible behaviors which Amida Buddha asks us never to commit. So it is a very important promise that we, as sincere and humble Nimbus followers, make to Amida Buddha. Now, let me explain what the 5 gravest offenses are. The first one is killing your father. The second is killing your mother. The third is killing someone who seeks the way of awakening. The fourth is physically injuring the Buddha. The fifth is disturbing the peace and harmony of the Sangha community. Those are all really terrible acts, aren't they? Any one of these is considered a serious offense in Buddhism, so we should always take precaution to avoid committing them. But when I first learned this as a high school student, I didn't pay much attention because I thought that these offenses are only committed by violent people. And I firmly believed that I was incapable of killing my parents. So I really didn't worry about them at all. However, over 20 years ago, when I was serving at the São Paulo Basin in Brazil, I recall hearing the Dharma Message given by the bishop and being very impressed by his words. He said, "We cannot live without making our parents worried and stressed. In that respect, from the time we are born, we are actually causing our parents' lives to shorten." When I heard his words back then, it made me fully aware of the real meaning of killing parents as described in the 5 gravest offenses. From the day that my wife and I became parents, we experienced a challenging time whenever our kids got sick enough to remain in bed. Our kids usually take turns catching terrible colds almost every year, especially when they were babies suffering a bad cough and high fever. My wife took really good care of them for 24 hours straight. Because of her care and devotion, they always recovered completely a few days later. But because my wife was so worried about them and didn't get enough to sleep while nursing, she was worn out and afterwards looked as if she had aged 10 years. I still remember as I watched my wife holding a little child who had suffered for days with a bad cough that lasted through the night. I really sensed her deep maternal affection, love, and anxiety for her child. I've taken my son to the emergency room twice since his birth. The first time was when he was 3 years old, and we had found a small bump in his mouth. Although the dentist had removed his infected tooth to get the pus out, the swelling didn't go down at all. My son's situation was very unusual, so the dentist suspected a tumor. So I immediately took him to the Stanford Hospital emergency, where the medical staff came into our room, administered an anesthetic to my son, and laid him on the bed. Then a specialist scraped some cells from the bump. When I saw the blood all over my little son's mouth, it was hard to hold back tears. The doctor told me that we needed to wait 3 days for the test results. During that time, my wife and I assured ourselves that our son would be absolutely fine. But neither of us were able to sleep well because of our fear and worry. When I was working or even just watching TV for laughs, my son's worst case scenario would suddenly come to mind, and I was not able to concentrate on much of anything else at all. Fortunately, we learned that the bump in his mouth was not a tumor, but an abscess. The doctor has said that this was an unusual case, but when we heard that result, we were so relieved. but we have become quite exhausted by so much stress. Anyway, it was one of the most difficult and stressful experiences of our lives as parents. The second most challenging incident was just last year when my son choked on some food. When I took him to the emergency, he was diagnosed with a stricture in his throat. Since then, he's had an endoscopy procedure to stretch that narrow spot in his throat. He's already had this treatment 8 times. Whenever I take him to the hospital, I feel really sorry for him because he has to be patient with both the anesthesia during the procedure and the chest pain afterwards. But he's never cried or refused such tough treatment. So my son is a very strong boy, and I'm really proud of him. Fortunately, his condition has been improving. Although he still needs to have an endoscopy for checkups, he now is able to enjoy more different foods than before. This is how parents always think and worry about their children. Their priority is their children's health, safety, and happiness. When I look back over the past 49 years, I know I've caused my parents to endure, worry, and suffer from a lot of stress because as a child, I was sick or injured even more than my own 2 kids have been. What's more, I can remember many times making my parents angry or disappointed because I often talked back to them and gave them grief. So I've seriously caused my parents trouble, both physically and mentally, for about 50 years. Certainly, I've never done anything as awful as giving poison to my parents. But when I remember the bishop's Dharma talk in Brazil, his words made me realize how many of my 50 years have made my parents feel as if their lives have been shortened because of me. Then I cannot help but conclude that talking about grave offenders is really describing myself. And that's a very important point that I only realized when I first became a father and also when I lost my mom last year. If my mom were still alive, she would probably laugh my fears off, protesting, "No, that's not how it is at all." But from my viewpoint as her child, I cannot help but reflect deeply upon my selfish behavior, which I'm sure caused my mom to worry about me way too often. And as I think about her now, I'd like to express my deepest feelings of gratitude for my mother's deep love, which always embraced and never abandoned me. In the same way, my self-reflection forces me to acknowledge my selfish way of life, which is far from living up to the Buddha's wish. Unfortunately, I'm living with the self-centered thoughts as though I were turning my back to Amida Buddha. This means I have lived as if causing the life of Amida Buddha to shorten because of my own selfishness. In that respect, it is the same as injuring the Buddha's body, which is one of the 5 gravest offenses. Of course, Amida Buddha is a Tathagata with immeasurable life, So my expression, causing the Buddha's life to shorten, is inappropriate. But from my perspective, as a Nimbus follower, I cannot help but reflect upon my self-centered and arrogant attitude, which has always disappointed Buddha. In Buddhism, it is said that those who commit the 5 gravest offenses are the worst among ordinary people. When I look deep into my true self through the Buddha's light of wisdom, I realize that I'm also among these grave offenders. So it is no wonder if I'm abandoned by Amida Buddha. In the opening meditation, I shared a passage from the hymns of the Pure Land, written by our founder Shinran, which goes, when a person realizes the mind of non-discrimination, the attainment is the state of regarding each being as one's only child. That's none other than Buddha nature. We will awaken to it on reaching the land of peace. In this poem, Shinran explains Amida Buddha's perspective of regarding each being as one's only child. He makes clear that Amida Buddha embraces each one of us equally, as if we are each Buddha's only child, meaning precious and irreplaceable. Amida Buddha's compassionate mind is fully revealed in this passage. Amida Buddha knows all about our selfishness, which prevents us from attaining enlightenment. That's why Amida Buddha established the primal vow in order to embrace all suffering people who are constantly confused by their greed, anger, and ignorance. Amida Buddha vows that all living beings will be embraced in the great compassion equally, without exception, as if we are Buddha's only child. So, Amida Buddha will firmly embrace even the 5 grave offenders, just as my mom loved me no matter what I did. So like our mother's selfless love for her child, Amida Buddha will never abandon any kind of person. Of course, human love isn't nearly as powerful as Amida Buddha's deep compassion. But I always imagine a mother's love for a child is like Amida Buddha's deep compassion for each one of us. In Jodo Shinshu, we say to study Buddhism to learn about the compassionate heart of the Buddha. That's why it's very important for us to live our lives each day with an nembutsu in joy and gratitude for Amida Buddha's unconditional compassion. Today, as we celebrate Mother's Day, let's, more than usual, share our deepest feelings of gratitude for the unconditional love of our mothers. And because of the precious memories of my mom, I'll try to live the nimbus life of gratitude and meet the Buddha's wish so that I can make my mom smile in joy and happiness. Again, thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attention to my Dharma talk this morning. Please continue to stay healthy and have a great day. Please put your hands together in kansho. When a person realizes the mind of non-discrimination, that attainment is the state of regarding each being as one's only child. That is none other than Buddha nature. We'll awaken to it on reaching the land of peace. Namanda Butz 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 Namanda Butz.
Thank you, Sensei, for your very touching Dharma message for our Mother's Day service this year. For those of you who are watching this video as part of our Sunday morning watch party on Mother's Day morning, please stay in our Zoom meeting as our temple's YBA, the Young Buddhist Association, has prepared a special Mother's Day presentation to share with all the mothers of the temple and anyone else who is joining our Zoom meeting watch party. Again, as always, please stay safe and stay healthy and have a happy Mother's Day. Thank you.